Imagine revenge delivered not by a blade, but by a needle. Imagine death arriving not in a fight, but tucked inside cotton, hidden along a seam. In 1853, in Tennessee, a wealthy household started to fail, slowly and mysteriously. Their clothing looked perfect, but something far darker was there. Who was Louisa, the enslaved seamstress behind it all? And how did no one notice? If you're drawn to real stories that cut through time and expose what's been buried, subscribe now and turn on notifications so you don't miss our investigations. By midsummer 1853, the thick Tennessee heat sticks to the light dresses drying in the yard. The white-columned house stands bright and distant in the sun. Inside, the family keeps to its routine. Servants bring the midday meal. The mistress sips tea without a word. The master watches from under his brimmed hat. Trouble is close, but they don't see it, don't name it, can't avoid it. Behind the main house, enslaved women sit in rows at long wooden benches, sewing in silence, heads down, backs tight with strain, hands moving without pause. Among them is Louisa. She is slender, steady, precise. Her fingers move in clean, exact lines, pulling neat stitches through linen and silk. Her face gives nothing away. Her eyes, dark and watchful, carry memory, grief, and a firm will. Louisa's work is personal. She hems the mistress's gowns, repairs the master's vest, embroiders christening clothes for newborns, and fixes the children's jackets. Every piece passes through her hands, every stitch set with care. The family wears her labor every day, never guessing at the quiet choice hidden in each thread. The illness begins gently, a small rash on the mistress's wrist, written off as heat or a bite. The children talk about chills, then body aches that won't go away. The master grows short-tempered, his thoughts muddy, his eyes dull. The doctor arrives careful and orderly, ledger always in hand. He lists the signs: nausea, dizziness, inflamed skin, trembling. He orders herbal tonics and rest in cool rooms. He blames summer fever, the heavy air, maybe bad spring water. No one looks at Louisa. She keeps her place, sewing, in silence. Around day 20, the first death hits. The youngest daughter lies pale and still in her bed. No screams, only quiet. Then the matriarch weakens. Her hair comes out in thin strands. Blisters rise on her skin. Her breathing slows. The doctor grows uneasy and shifts from fever to poison as his working idea. He orders clothing sealed away and cuts small fabric samples to inspect. He notes odd residues, thin oily marks between folds, and faint discoloration inside linings. But the testing tools of the time are crude. Nothing is certain. Gossip grows anyway. The mistress, mumbling with fever, speaks about feeling light and fire under her skin. The master stops eating. He stares at the servants with fear and suspicion. Louisa sits and sews. From the outside, nothing about her changes. Inside the house, whispers grow. Clothing that burns the skin. A smell like bitter almonds. Warnings not to wear certain pieces. No one watches the seamstress's quarters closely. She is seen and not seen. Her work speaks. Her silence holds power. After the children are set in small coffins, after mourning drapes the halls, the whispers sharpen. Did the seamstress add something to the thread? Could poison reach the body through hidden stitches, tiny cuts, or oils pressed into lining fabric? No one saw her prepare anything, but the dead are dressed in her repairs, her initials, her lace. Rumors spread quietly. Some say an older woman taught her. Herbs, roots, and slow-acting methods passed down in secret as a kind of resistance. Plants that killed through skin over time. No one outside the quarters can prove it. Louisa says nothing. Records don't show her name. But each fixed scene tightens the doubts around her. The house falls quiet, but not in peace. The air grows heavy with fear and sickness. Servants move like shadows, careful and quick, trying not to draw attention. The White family keeps to their rooms. The halls that once carried forced laughter now echo with footsteps and coughing. Behind closed doors, sweat-soaked sheets pile up. Strange sores appear on the skin of those who wear the fine clothes Louisa has touched. The real beginning lies years earlier. Louisa's past is marked by harm and whispers. She was born enslaved in North Carolina and sold south at 14 after a disciplinary incident, a vague note in a ledger. Rumor, never proven, said a boy who hurt her died suddenly in the field, seizing before he could cry out. When Louisa reached Tennessee, she was quiet and controlled. Her skill with fabrics saved her from field work. She was moved to the sewing room under the mistress's eye, but Louisa brought more than a needle. In her first years there, she bonded with an older woman, a midwife named Bet. Bet moved slowly and squinted through cataracts, but she remembered plants that caused bleeding inside. She spoke of old knowledge, roots and saps that kill in small doses over time. Bet's own children had been sold away. Her hand shook from age as she passed these lessons to Louisa. Under the cover of gathering herbs for dyes and washing, she learned where to find subtle poisons. The White family never questioned her comings and goings. She collected Jimson weed seeds, dried belladonna berries, and resin from wild hemlock. Each acted differently. Alone, they were risky. Measured and combined, infused into linings and seams, they slipped through skin in slow whispers. No one suspected the seamstress. Her job looked too ordinary, too domestic to spark fear. She sewed. She obeyed. But with every repair, she made a choice. An extra thread here, a hidden fold there. A lining waited just enough. She took her time. Sudden death was not the goal. By midsummer, a pattern formed. Servants who handled the family's clothing often fell ill. A maid collapsed after wearing a hand-me-down shawl. A stable boy developed painful sores after carrying a stack of freshly laundered coats. The plantation doctor guessed at a toxin in the environment, mold, bad water. Yet nothing fit. Symptoms came fast for some, slow for others. The White family brushed off his concerns as superstitions. In the quarters, the talk spread in another way. Some called Louisa's hands blessed or cursed. A few stayed away from her. Others left small items at her door: thread, beads, roots. Not gifts so much as signs that they understood. They knew, or thought they did. No one said it out loud. The family's decline became obvious. The youngest son, once strong, lost weight quickly. The master began to see things that weren't there. He shouted at empty corners, accused his children of betrayal. The mistress stayed in bed, staring through people, breathing hard. Outside the plantation, rumors of witchcraft grew. A traveling preacher came and found only sorrow and rot. Louisa stayed calm, hands busy as always. One night, the cook says she saw Louisa talking to someone no one else could see, a shape near the trees. Maybe Bet's ghost. When asked, Louisa lowered her eyes and returned to her sewing. She did not answer. The plantation, once proud and busy, began to smell of decay. At the center of it all, Louisa sewed without hurry. Each hem felt like a quiet act that no one could quite pinpoint. Each finished piece kept her hidden and protected. By late August, the parlor no longer rang with piano music or idle chat. What remained was the slow, smothered breath of a house sinking into silence. The mystery had become certainty. One by one, the household fell to an illness no doctor could name, no prayer could stop, no servant could ignore. The master, once harsh and in control, now wandered the halls in confusion. His skin turned yellow, his eyes sank and reddened. He muttered names, some living, some long dead. He clawed at his own shirts as if they burned. In front of two guests from Alabama, he tore off a pressed shirt and collapsed in spasms. They refused to stay the night. His wife, bedridden for weeks, stopped recognizing the room around her. Small eruptions on her skin burst and bled when she moved. A new doctor, brought by the overseer, suspected arsenic, but admitted it didn't explain the skin reactions. He ordered all fabric removed from bedrooms and began fumigation. Nothing changed. The remaining children stayed apart. Their joints ached, their gums bled. The eldest son, once set to inherit, would not leave his bed. When he did, he babbled about crawling insects under his skin and fire behind his eyes. He scratched his neck raw. A nursemaid who tried to calm him was struck hard across the face and quit that night. The staff changed how they moved. They stopped meeting the family's eyes. They spoke in looks, not words. Many refused to handle the garments. The laundry room fell almost silent. Some were punished for walking off the job. Others got sick themselves, sores rising on their hands that wouldn't heal. Those who touched the clothes too often didn't seem to recover. Louisa alone stayed well. She did not cough or ache. Her skin stayed clear. She kept to her corner, sewing carefully, delivering finished pieces on time. Her silence grew heavier. One housemaid, Sarah, told another that months ago, Louisa had asked for a specific plant from the woods, not used for dye. Sarah had brought her a bitter-smelling root. She hadn't thought about it then. Now she wondered if that choice had mattered. Late one evening, the overseer's daughter was found on the parlor floor barely breathing, skin flushed. She had worn a shawl freshly repaired by Louisa. The overseer, a brutal man, ripped apart Louisa's quarters looking for proof. He found nothing, only thread, needles, folded cloth. No jar, no scrap he could point to as evidence. Louisa stood, hands at her sides, face unreadable. In the morning, he demanded she be locked away. The master, half conscious, muttered, "She's done nothing, nothing," and blocked it. The house was coming apart. He could no longer lead. That night, a fire started in a distant shed. It was put out, but fear spread. Some said the land was cursed. Others whispered about spirits, about a quiet uprising carried not by blade or flame, but by thread and cloth. And Louisa kept sewing. No one dared to stop her. Windows once thrown open for a breeze were now shut tight. The great halls no longer rang with footsteps, only the soft creak of boards and the dry coughs of the sick. Then Dr. Albert Greaves arrived from Charleston, known for facing cases local doctors avoided. He believed in close observation and notes, but even he felt the weight of the place. He examined the sick, gathered samples, wrote down what he saw. Soon his focus shifted to the clothing. On nearly every garment from an ill person, he saw faint discoloration along linings and stitches that felt a bit stiff, as if an oil had been worked into the thread. A light, bitter scent clung to the fabric. Greaves set those clothes aside and ordered the household to stop wearing anything prepared by the seamstress for the time being. Quietly, he questioned the overseer and the staff about Louisa. How long had she been here? Had anyone seen her add anything to her work? Eyes dropped. People said little. The silence said enough. Pressure built. Whispers turned into open claims. The overseer, still angry about his daughter, demanded that Louisa stand before them. Under a flickering oil lamp in the middle of the parlor, she faced their questions. Did she use strange substances? Did she poison the cloth? Who taught her what she knew? Louisa said, none of it. She looked through them, past their fear and sickness. The master, from his bed, sent word that nothing should be done without proof. Proof did not come. Greaves ran simple tests on the fabric. The results told him little. He believed a toxin was involved, likely from local plants, but he could not name it. Fear didn't wait for certainty. The staff demanded punishment. Some called for a whipping. Others whispered worse. Execution, burial alive, salted ground. Order gave way to dread. They called it a trial, but there were no judges. Only the overseer, the doctor, and the shaking crowd. They shut Louisa in a storage room under the house where cloth bales were kept and rats slipped through the dark. She didn't cry out. She didn't beg. She sat still. When the cook passed full through the door, she said Louisa was whispering, not prayers, but names. Names no one knew, or perhaps they knew and kept quiet. Then the turn. A violent storm tore through. Lightning hit a tree near the house. In the morning's confusion, the storage door stood open. Louisa was gone. No trail in the wet ground, no footprints. The door wasn't broken. Some swore it had never been locked. The overseer sent out dogs and called marshals. Nothing. She had vanished. Only scraps of fabric and an unfinished piece lay near the door, embroidered with the master's monogram, half-stitched, the needle still tucked in the hem. The family kept failing. One by one, they went silent. Those who lived never got their strength back. The plantation slid into ruin. By winter, it was empty. As for Louisa, some said she drowned in the creek. Others said she headed north with help from people who knew what had happened. In the enslaved community nearby, another version stayed alive. A woman who used her work as a weapon of memory, not hate. A woman who left not into the woods, but into story. More than a century later, the place is a shell. The house is half buried in ivy, its roof fallen in, its walls stained by storms and time. Few visitors make it this far into the Tennessee woods. Those who do often turn back on the choked road where the trees close in. Every so often, someone reaches the ruins. History buffs, ghost hunters, or travelers who can't explain why they kept going. They come for the story of Louisa, though most don't know her name. They call her the seamstress or the silent one. Some say she was a witch who cursed the family. Others see her as an avenger who turned tools of service into tools of payback. The real account, if it ever sat neatly on a page, has long since come apart. But strange traces remain. In 1962, a timber buyer named Calvin Murdoch purchased the land. While clearing the main house, he found a small trunk under the sewing room floorboards. Inside were fabric scraps, neatly folded and labeled with names that matched the burial records. Several pieces held dark, oily stains. A worker who handled one fragment broke out in a rash that lasted for weeks. Murdoch walked away from the project within a month. In 1985, two anthropology students from Nashville visited the ruins. One of them, Annalise Turner, wrote in her field journal that the ruins felt too quiet, like the house was waiting. She noted sewing needles stuck in the floorboards, rusted but still sharp. That night, she dreamed of a woman in the shadows, eyes bright over a broken sewing table. Annalise never went back. The local archives hold almost nothing. Plantation records burned during the war. Only scattered papers survive. A doctor's journal that stops abruptly in 1853. A death ledger listing more people than graves. And one shaky letter from the mistress that ends, "She watches while we sleep. I know it now." In nearby Black communities, the stories continue. Older women speak of a spirit that punishes cruelty slowly and surely. They don't call her by name, but sometimes they set spools of thread on their windowsills, just in case. No one remembers who began the habit. They remember only that forgetting would be unwise. A local preacher once tried to cleanse the property. He lasted 3 days and fled in the night. When asked what he saw, he said only, "Some wounds never close. Some hands never stop sewing." Some insist Louisa never lived at all, that she's a tale born from guilt and fear. They struggle to explain the clothing that keeps turning up. Now and then, pieces of 19th century fabric appear at estate sales and antique shops, beautifully made, old but sturdy. A few collectors report strange feelings when handling them. One said his fingertips went numb. Another felt ill days after buying a bonnet. No test has settled it. The legend stays. The plantation sits untouched, not out of honor, but out of fear. Trees swallow the paths. The foundation slumps. No birds use the rafters. In the sewing room, under layers of dust, someone scratched a message into stone. 5 letters. Louis. Was it meant as her name? A warning? A confession? No one knows. And when wind moves through what's left of the house, people say you can hear a soft sound, like thread pulled through cloth.